Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about IB Physics HL exam tips for the new 2025 syllabus. Now, there have been quite a few changes in how the exams are structured, so let's break it down paper by paper. We will talk about recommended time allocations, difficulty levels, and how to maximize your score. I will also highlight some great resources, including older past papers and our own HKExcel topic-wise set questions. But first, let's quickly recap the 5 main topic areas for Physics HL. So the first one is space, time, and motion. Second one is the particulate nature of matter. Third one is wave behavior. Fourth one is fields. And the fifth one is nuclear and quantum physics. Now, next, let's look at the assessment breakdown and the weightings. So for IB Physics HL, you'll be sitting for 3 exams in total. Paper 1A, 1B, and Paper 2. So for Paper 1A and 1B, you are given 2 hours in total and no break in between. So paper 1A is MCQ. You'll be given around 80 minutes, and that is going to be 24% of your final grade. Paper 1B is data-based questions, and you are given 40 minutes, and that will contribute 12% to your final grade. Paper 2, on the other hand, is very similar to the older paper 2. You'll be given 2.5 hours for this paper, and that is going to contribute 44% of your final grade. And of course, you have the internal assessment, and that will be 20% of your final grade. Now, let's dive deeper into paper 1A. Okay? So paper 1A is multiple choice. So in this paper, you'll be given 40 MCQs. So you should allocate about 2 minutes per question. So giving you 80 minutes in total. So let's have a look at paper 1A. So this is paper 1A specimen paper. You're given 2 hours in total. And for paper 1A is 40 marks. Okay. So this for each MCQs, you're given 4 options. Now, technically, you don't need 2 minutes per question. I would strongly recommend to spend about 1.5 minutes. But you'll also notice that some of the questions at the beginning don't require you to think for that long. So you can actually finish those first few questions probably in 30 seconds for each. So 1.5 minutes is the recommended time for solving each question. But I would suggest that you for multi-step questions, you'll be requiring more time. So this is just a guideline. So it's not necessary that for all questions you have to spend 1.5 minutes, because you'll notice that for some questions, for the questions towards the very end of the paper, you will notice that you will require multi-steps. So you might be needing around 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes in solving such questions. Okay. So, as I mentioned as well, paper 1A is going to be 24% of your final grade. You're allowed to use a calculator and data booklet. Okay. Now, let's look at some strategy for paper 1A. So, in the exam, it's always better to mark up your exam booklet. Maybe draw a free body diagram for forces, maybe label known variables, or maybe quickly rewrite relevant equations. In that way, you can cross out answer choices you are certain which are certainly wrong. Okay, or it can be due to like sign errors or mismatch. Okay? Now, the second tip that I would give for paper 1A is the multiple pass approach. So let's say you can have 3 passes. The first pass is you quickly handle easier and familiar questions. For the second pass, you can return to the flagged ones. And for the third pass, maybe in the last minute or two, maybe guess the remaining blanks, because there is no penalty for wrong answers. So tip number 3 is unit and logic checks. So let's say if a question references about gravitational potential energy, that is MGH, but let's say you see an answer choice with an extra M in the denominator. Now, obviously, that is suspicious, so you can easily eliminate it. Okay? And watch for directionality. For example, constant velocity implies net force is 0. So answers suggesting an unbalanced force are likely incorrect. Okay, so you have to focus on the questions. So let's have a look. For example, if you look at this question here, first question from the specimen paper, it's better to highlight the important key information that are given. Okay? So let's say a car has an initial speed of 16 meters per second. The initial speed 16 meters per second, and it decelerates at 4 meters per second square. So underlining or marking these key informations will help you solve the problem easily. Obviously, we also have our topic set questions. And as you can see, our HKExcel topic set questions also has MCQs to help you prepare as well for paper 1A. So let's move on to paper 1B, HL database questions. So here, you are given 40 minutes, and it's going to be 20 marks in total. And it's going to worth 12% of your final grade. Again, calculator and data booklet are allowed. Okay. Primarily, database questions are based on experimental results, graphs, or tables. So if you look at a sample specimen paper, let's say paper 1B here. So 2 hours for paper 1 and 1B here. Paper 1B is 20 marks. So this is how a typical paper 1B would look. Okay. Experimental based questions with maybe graphs will be given, some tables, or charts, or maybe results will be given. Okay. Now the question is, how do you tackle paper 1B? First, read the data thoroughly. Whatever data is given, if you're given any data, read the data thoroughly. Identify the variables, maybe note uncertainties, okay? Check the units and see if there is any trend, okay? For example, let's say here, this you can see a clear trend here. So read the data and the graphs thoroughly. And second tip for tackling paper 1B would be to organize your thoughts. Maybe write down relevant equations or conceptual frameworks. Let's say if it's for thermodynamics, they can think of thermodynamics for a cooling curve, okay? Or maybe kinematics if it's a motion graph. Okay? And third tip would be link to physics principles. Let's say if the data shows a velocity time graph, mention acceleration or maybe area under the graph interpretations. And let's say if it's related to electric circuit database or dataset, like tie it back to maybe Ohm's law or maybe Kirchhoff's law. So whatever the question set is on, you have to link it back to the physics principle. Okay. Now, do watch your time because you only have 40 minutes to solve this paper. Okay. Now, obviously, it will take some time to get used to the database type questions. Now, for help, we also have some previous database set questions, as you can see. These are our HKExcel topic-wise set questions, and these are data-based questions. As you can see, these are extracted from older papers and some of our practice set papers here. So this one here is related to circuits. Okay. Okay. Now, let's dive into paper 2 HL. So paper 2 is short answer and extended response type questions. So for paper 2, it's 2.5 hours long and 90 marks in total. And it's going to worth 44% of your final IB grade. Okay. Again, calculator and data booklet are allowed. Now, keep in mind that this paper 2 is known to be challenging. because it has more advanced or multi-step problems. So let's look at a specimen paper, paper 2 here. So paper 2, 2 hour, 30 minutes, and it's 90 marks in total. So you can see these are long extended response questions. Okay, some are short questions, some are extended response questions as well. Okay. Now, the question is, what strategy can I use for paper 2? So the first thing that I would suggest is use your reading time properly. So you'll be given around 5 minutes reading time before your exam starts. So skim through all the question to assess the difficulty and then quickly identify the easier ones and the difficult ones. Okay. Second tip, start with the easier questions first. Okay. Build the momentum and that will help you relax as well. The third tip, plan extended response questions. So what I mean by extended response questions is, let's say if you are given 6 to 8 mark questions, okay, outline the key points or steps on a scratch paper. Okay? If it's about gravitational field, maybe you can note down the formulas, sign convention, and maybe talk about potential and potential energy, etc. So keep in mind, for if it's, let's say, 4 or 5 mark questions, or even let's say if it's like 6 mark questions, that means you will require 6 steps or 6 points. If it's an explanation type question, obviously, you need to have that many key points or keywords. Now, do check for the command terms, okay? So let's say explain, derive, evaluate. These are different. All of them are different, okay? For example, let's say for derive, you might need to show step-by-step derivation, okay? So let's say if a question is 3 marks or 4 marks, that means you need to have that many steps to show the main process. And if it says evaluate, that means you need to compare the strengths and weaknesses, or maybe discuss the significance of the results. Okay. Now, there can be questions where they can ask you to maybe, let's say, a satellite. Let's say you have Earth. Okay. Let's say you have Earth here. Okay. And then you have a satellite revolving around the Earth. Okay. In this case, you might be asked to show the orbital speed or orbital velocity, and then maybe asked to explain the difference between gravitational potential and gravitational potential energy. And they can also ask you to maybe discuss the energy changes if satellite orbits changes from, let's say, R1 to R2. So let's say from here, let's say if it moves to somewhere here and then it revolves. Okay. So you can probably be asked to discuss the energy changes. Okay. Now, next is the past paper and practice questions. So my suggestion is practice at least 10 years of older HL papers because 95% still are the same. Actually, the newer syllabus is actually shorter compared to the older syllabus. And some might say that in the older syllabus, there aren't any questions on relativity or rigid body mechanics. Those were actually in the option topics in the older syllabus. For example, let's say in the current new topic, A4 rigid bodies, you will probably be able to get some older past papers or relevant past paper questions from options B1 in the older topic, older syllabus. And let's say for the new syllabus A5, special relativity and Galilean, so you will find those questions or related questions in the older options A1 to A2 paper, A through A and A3 paper. Okay. Now, of course, we have topic-wise set questions as well that matches the 2025 format. As I have shown here, we have questions. Let's say this is on topic A1, A2, A3. We have sets of question banks or question set here. And then we have multiple for other topics as well. This one is about set C, topic C, so which is about waves. Additional tips. So beware of the key phrases. Whenever you're reading a question, you should identify the key phrases like constant velocity, okay, and if it's elastic collision or not. So we know that constant velocity means what? The net force is zero. And if it's elastic collision, it implies that kinetic energy is conserved, right? So missing these clues can lead to big mistakes. So that's why it's always better that whenever you're reading a question, identify the key phrases or the key words. And another tip, second tip would be don't overlook simple diagrams. Okay. So for example, let's say if you're given a circuit question. Let's say we have a circuit question like this. Okay. So obviously you can see that it's a combination of series and parallel circuits. So it's always easier to actually combine these two first to make it into a series. And then after you make it into a series here, you combine this and then you can do parallel calculations. So drawing quick, simple diagrams will help you solve the problems much easily. Okay. And my next tip would be to practice under exam conditions. Make sure you time yourself for 80 minutes, like for 40 MCQ questions. That is for paper 1. And give yourself like 40 minutes for database questions as well for paper 1B. Okay? Because 1A is MCQ and 1B is database questions. So the more you mimic real conditions, like the calmer you will be on the exam day. And that is exactly the reason I would suggest that if you practice more past papers or maybe topic-wise questions, that will help you like boost your confidence. Okay? And obviously manage stress. Now, these exams are meant to be tough, so a question that looks daunting might be normal. And trust that you have practiced enough, you will find partial solutions or partial ways to secure some marks. So do not leave anything blank in the exam. Okay? So for additional sources, remember that we practice with older HL papers, 10 years if possible, and obviously refine your skills with our HKExcel sets design questions for 2025 format. Okay? Keep an eye on the time management, show your work clearly, okay? And don't let the difficulty rattle you.